idea who that guy was. So yes, I've a very early educational experience that informed the way I view personal change, and I'm going to tell you what that is. This is a bit of an indicator as to when I took the 11 plus, okay? It's in black and white. I'm very young looking, obviously, but I'm really not. I took the 11 plus in 1972, and I was very excited to take the 11 plus because when I looked at the grammar school kids, they all looked really cool. They had great uniforms, and they looked like they had their lives and their paths made for them. The kids that went to the secondary school, their lives were equally pathed out for them, but slightly different. They were to follow their mums and dads into industry, but on the shop floor. I wanted something a little bit different. So I was very excited to take the 11 plus. When I took the 11 plus and the letter came back, I was really pleased to learn that I had passed. So off my mum and dad went to the uniform shop. We bought the uniform. It was lovely, nice uniform, nice tie. Went to the grammar school, and on day one, I was sat down with a young lad next to me, and we introduced ourselves, and we were given books, and we had to write our names on the books. Now, I noticed straight away something a bit weird. He'd copied my name. I looked over, and he'd written Pete Wilson, or Peter Wilson, as I am more formally known to my mother. And I thought that was really weird. I said, why have you written my name? He says, my name's Pete Wilson. Now, I know it's quite a common name, and I bet there's at least one Pete Wilson in the audience, right? There you go. I cheated, right, because I know I'd looked at the list. But I wasn't surprised to see you there. It turned out, as the teacher quickly informed us, that this being 1972, they got a bit confused between the two sets of results. So one of us had passed and the other one had failed. Okay? So the only way that they could differentiate between the two of us was to wait for a couple of months, hopefully not longer than that, set us some tests, see how we got on, etc., and then break the news. Well, there you go. So I was the Pete Wilson that had failed the 11 plus, had to hand my uniform back. I'm not sure whether my mum and dad got the money back, and I went then to the secondary school. So 8 years later, I decided that they were wrong, and I had actually passed the 11 plus, or at least in my head, and I went and did a couple of degrees, an MBA, worked in computer science, and then joined PwC. There's a couple of lessons that I learned there. One is nothing is set in stone, both as an individual, as an organization, or as teams. Nothing is set in concrete. We can change. The other thing I learned was that institutions don't really, are not equipped to deal with individuals. They look at us as big groups. A couple of numbers that I'll share with you. 66.5 million people. That's the population of the UK. I think we all recognize that number. 66 is the number of groups that the Experian Mosaic marketing tool breaks up the population. So 1 million people in a group, that's still huge. It's been quite successful. Here's another number, 0. In my experience, the number, the way that public sector organizations and institutions think about the population, it's one big group. There are some obvious exceptions, and there's some really exciting work going on in the NHS at the moment, and there's been some really exciting work going on in policing to break down the population. Now, I'm an evangelist for AI and automation. I actually think this kind of technology and the age of personalisation is the next step on our evolution. It's going to make us much better human beings because it's going to take that weight or that part of our brain of the drudgery of life that we do day to day, and we're going to be able to free up part of our brain to think about other things. And for me, it's about being better humans. We've evolved in such a way and adapted that we are absolutely have a stepping stone to take the next step forward. We're all a bit worried at the moment about AI and automation and actually what it means. There are two kinds, or very quickly, there's a broad description of AI and automation. There's a general AI, and that's the kind of AI that you might have seen recently on the re-emergence of the 2001 Space Odyssey film, right, HAL, which exceeds our human ability in every facet, as opposed to narrow AI. This is exactly where we are at the moment, narrow AI. Technology that does one thing, and it does it very well, and it does it better than us. Great example of narrow AI is Google's AlphaGo technology, which is based up in King's Cross, that just beat the 9th Dan, the world champion at the game of Go. The interesting thing about the game of Go is that there are more moves in the game of Go than there are atoms in the observable universe. And this algorithm, taught itself how to play. Now apply that to our life. There are a couple of contrasts I want to draw. I think there's a huge gap growing between commercially driven organizations and what it's doing with technology and our public sector services. So two contrasts I'd like to draw. One is, imagine a world where your kitchen food and your fridge never runs out of your favorite food. And why is that? Because your supplier is monitoring a number of things. It can monitor your waste, all of your waste. It's monitoring heart rate, it's monitoring weight, it's monitoring the movement of the shelves and in the fridge. And you've authorized your supplier to keep the thing stocked. Contrast that with living with cancer undiagnosed for 6 months and then waiting 2 months for treatment. Think about that gap. That's going to happen. Another contrast. Think about your automated or autonomous travel pod waiting for you outside of your house to take you to work, choosing the most optimal route, the most environmentally friendly route, the route that takes you past the traffic and gets you to work for the meeting bang on time. Versus the alternative world of waiting at London Bridge for 2 hours for a train that has been endlessly delayed with hundreds of other people on the platform. So I'm actually evangelical about this. I think we can be better humans. There's a big question out there, which is what will happen with AI? But as I say in the video, it's not something that has been beamed down to us. We know about it, we're building it, we're influencing it. So the question should be, what will happen? One of the things I do in my spare time is that I'm a shaper, sounds quite grand, I'm a shaper for the World Economic Forum's 4th Industrial Revolution Challenge. Essentially what we're doing is going out and organizing seminars, getting people talking about technology and shaping our future world. Very interesting stuff. What I would like you guys to do when you go from here is to be part of that, to think about the ethics of AI and the technology that is emerging, but also not how it's being built in the organization, maybe the private organizations that you belong to, but also what's happening in our public services. What kind of public services do we want in the future? So please be part of that discussion and use your influence in your organizations to drive the conversation. Thanks very much.